In the remote village of Black Hollow, surrounded by thick woods and veiled in a constant shroud of fog, there lay a stretch of earth no one dared to tread after dark. It wasn't marked on any official map. No signposts led the way. Yet, every soul in the village knew its cursed presence. The land of the unmarked graves.it began centuries ago, they said, during a time of famine and plague. Bodies were buried in haste, names forgotten, stories lost. No prayers, no rites, just earth over rotting flesh. Over time, the dead grew restless. Generations passed, but the unease remained. The villagers built their homes away from the land, and children were warned never to wander too close. The earth remembers what we choose to forget, the elders would whisper. Ellie, a young journalist from the city, had never believed in such tales. When she first heard of Black Hollow and its haunting legends, she was intrigued, not frightened. Her blog specialized in uncovering local myths, and the idea of documenting the truth behind the unmarked graveyard thrilled her. She packed her gear, charged her cameras, and headed out. Upon arrival, the village greeted her with silence and suspicion. Faces peeked from windows. Doors remained closed. Only one man spoke to her, old Reed, the caretaker of the dilapidated church that overlooked the land in question. His back was bent with age, his skin cracked like ancient bark, but his voice held the weight of sorrow. "You came for the dead," he said flatly. But the dead never left. She laughed nervously, brushing it off. "Just stories, right? I'd love to visit the site, maybe record the area, ask you a few questions." Reed's eyes darkened. "You want answers, you go alone. But don't say I didn't warn you." That night, armed with a flashlight and her camera, Ellie made her way to the field. A thin mist crawled along the ground like grasping fingers. The grass, yellowed and sparse, crunched beneath her boots. A strange wind whispered through the trees, though no branches swayed. As she stepped further in, she felt a heaviness in the air, as if the ground itself was watching. Her flashlight flickered, then steadied. She raised her camera, whispering into the mic. "This is Ellie Stone, and I'm standing in what locals call the Forgotten Field, a cursed land said to house hundreds of unmarked graves. But I see no gravestones, no markers, just silence. A faint noise interrupted her monologue, a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across dirt. She froze. The noise stopped. Heart pounding, she turned full circle. Nothing. But the air. It had changed. It felt thicker, colder. Then she saw it. Or rather, her. A pale figure stood at the edge of the trees. A girl no older than 10, in a torn white dress. Her hair hung in wet clumps over her face. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Ellie called out, "Hey, are you okay?" The girl didn't respond. Instead, she pointed slowly, deliberately, toward the center of the field. Then, as if swallowed by the mist, she vanished. Ellie's breath caught. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but curiosity was stronger. She advanced to where the girl had pointed, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. And there it was, a patch of disturbed earth, freshly dug. Her fingers trembled as she lowered the camera. She knelt, brushing aside the loose soil. Beneath it, something jutted out, a scrap of faded fabric. She pulled gently, revealing a child's shoe, still laced, still caked in dried blood. Suddenly, the wind howled. A scream echoed across the field, loud and shrill, not from her mouth, but from everywhere at once. The flashlight died. Ellie stumbled back, blind in the dark. Then, soft whispers, hundreds of them, filled the air. Names, dates, cries for help. I was 7. They forgot me. My mother never came back. I'm still here. She ran. She didn't look back, but as she reached the edge of the field, something grabbed her ankle. It was cold, wet, bone-thin fingers pulling at her, trying to drag her back into the soil. Ellie awoke on the cold floor of old Reed's church, her skin clammy, her heart racing. Candlelight flickered beside her, casting dancing shadows across the stone walls. She remembered the hand those icy fingers clawing at her ankle. Her voice was hoarse from screaming. Reed sat across the room, watching her. They let you go, he muttered, almost in disbelief. They never let go. What was that? Ellie asked, her voice barely audible. What did I see out there? Reed stood slowly, walking toward the dusty altar. The ones buried, without names, the children, the outcasts, the sick. They weren't mourned. They weren't remembered. The land remembers them now. And they're angry. He told her the truth, his version at least. In the early 1800s, a fever swept through Black Hollow. Entire families perished. With no time or space for proper burial, the dead were tossed into mass pits. Some, he said, were buried alive in panic. Their cries went unheard. Their souls trapped. Ellie listened, chills racing down her spine. She had touched their resting place, disturbed it, filmed it. She checked her camera. The footage was there, but distorted. Glitches, static, strange sounds in the background. And a face, a pale face just behind her shoulder in the last frame. She recoiled. I have to leave, she said. I need to tell people. Reed shook his head. You've seen them now. You carry their scent. They won't let you go so easily. Ignoring his warning, Ellie packed her things and left at dawn. The villagers watched in silence, eyes following her every step, as if they knew she wouldn't get far. As she reached her car, she saw something tucked beneath the windshield wiper. A child's drawing, stick figures, graves, a girl in white. Beneath it, a message scribbled in red. We are not done with you. She drove fast, but the forest seemed longer this time, endless. The road twisted where it hadn't before. GPS failed. Her phone battery drained despite being fully charged. And the mist, it grew thicker, pressing against the glass like breath from the other side that night in a motel miles from Black Hollow. She reviewed the footage again. The whispers were louder now, the glitching more aggressive. Every time she paused the video, the face behind her appeared clearer, closer. Its mouth opened wider. In the bathroom mirror, her reflection lingered. A second too long. That's when the dreams began. In them, she stood alone in the grave field. The earth trembled beneath her feet. Shadows crawled from the soil, reaching for her. The girl in the white dress stood at the center, weeping. Blood ran from her eyes. You shouldn't have come, the girl whispered. Now you have to stay. Ellie would wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, convinced she heard digging beneath her motel floor. One night, she peeled back the carpet and found fresh dirt beneath it. No hole, just earth, breathing, desperate. She called friends, colleagues, anyone who would listen. No one answered. Or worse, they answered, but only static came through. On the third day, her own voice greeted her from the line. Help me, it begged. I'm still in the soil. Something was wrong with her body, too. Bruises formed in the shape of handprints. Her eyes darkened. Her voice sometimes echoed when she spoke. It was as if she was being pulled slowly, back into that cursed field, even from miles away. And then, one night, it happened. She dreamt. She was back in Black Hollow, standing at the edge of the field. This time, she wasn't alone. Dozens of children, all pale and silent, circled her. Some had hollow eyes, others no mouths. One had no head at all. "Will you remember us?" they asked in unison. "Or will you bury us again?" When she awoke, the motel was empty. Not just her room, the whole place. No staff, no guests, only silence. And dirt beneath her bed. She packed her bags and ran, but the road outside wasn't. The one she drove in on. It was the path leading directly back to the field. The steering wheel shook beneath Ellie's hands as the tires crunched over gravel that seemed to stretch forever. No signs, no intersections, just the unrelenting path back to Black Hollow. Her phone screen had gone completely black, refusing to light up, even after multiple restarts. It was as if the modern world had completely abandoned her. Her car finally sputtered to a stop just as the twisted spire of the Black Hollow Church came into view, rising like a decaying finger from the mist. She hadn't meant to come back. She'd tried to run, but someone had called her. And deep down, she knew it wasn't over. The village was silent again. But this silence was different. Heavy. Expectant. She stepped out of the car, trembling. The moment her feet touched the ground, a sharp wind blew through the empty streets, whispering her name. Ellie, a breath barely audible, as if the very earth sighed with recognition. She walked to the church, hoping to find old Reed. But the doors were wide open, creaking on rusted hinges. Inside, the pews were overturned, the altar broken in half. And in the corner, Reed's cane lay on the ground, snapped clean in two. A trail of muddy footprints led out the back door and down toward the field. Ellie followed Dot as she crossed the threshold of the forgotten field again. Her body reacted violently. Nausea churned in her stomach. Her legs buckled. Still, she pressed forward. The grass had changed, grown black and brittle, like burnt hay. Dozens of small mounds dotted the landscape now. Freshly turned, the girl in white appeared again. Standing atop one of the mounds, Ellie whispered, "Why me?" The girl tilted her head. "Because you saw. And you left us behind." Ellie fell to her knees. "I didn't know what to do." "I couldn't, you dug." The girl's voice was suddenly a scream, distorted, as if layered with 100 other voices. "You woke us." The ground beneath Ellie pulsed like a heartbeat. Slowly, the mounds began to shift. Tiny hands pushed through the dirt. Then arms. Then faces, dozens of them. All children. All silent. All staring at her with sunken eyes. "You carry the memory," they said together. "And memory must be paid in full." Suddenly, the earth cracked open in front of her, revealing a gaping void of darkness. Inside, she saw flashes, visions of the past. Children dying in locked rooms. Bodies thrown into pits. The living silencing the cries of the infected. Villagers. Nailing doors shut. Fires in the night. Screams. The sins of Black Hollow weren't myths. They were history. Buried. Forgotten. Now remembered. "You can't leave," said the girl in white. "Not until you write the truth." "What truth?" Ellie cried. "No one will believe this." "They will," the girl hissed, stepping closer, her eyes now empty sockets. "If you become the story." A hand grabbed Ellie from behind. Then another. And another. She was dragged toward the pit, fingers clawing at her clothes, her skin. Dirt filled her mouth as she screamed. She blacked out when she awoke. It was morning. She was lying in the center of the field, covered in mud, her camera beside her undamaged. The village was still there, but different. Smoke rose from chimneys. People walked the streets. Laughter echoed in the distance, as if nothing had happened. But when Ellie approached, the villagers stared at her with blank expressions. No recognition, no emotion. She entered the local diner and tried to speak, but the waitress didn't respond. She tried again. Still silence. It was as if she wasn't there. Then she caught her reflection in the window. She was fading, her skin pale, her eyes dark. A slow, creeping transparency overtaking her arms. The girl had been right. She wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was becoming a part of the story. Ellie wandered the streets of Black Hollow, her shadow flickering as if uncertain whether to stay or disappear. The village bustled with life, children playing, merchants calling out from the reopened market, the distant ring of the church bell. Yet no one saw her. No one heard her. She had become a ghost in her own story. She returned to the church, hoping to find something, anything that could reverse what was happening. But the altar was now restored, polished and clean, adorned with fresh flowers and bright cloths. A young priest stood at the pulpit, reading from a Bible. It wasn't Reed. In fact, there was no trace of the old man anywhere, as if he'd never existed. She moved through the pews, shouting, waving, crying. Nothing. No reaction. It was like moving through a dream already remembered too many times. That night, Ellie sat in the middle of the forgotten field, surrounded by the graves. She whispered apologies to the children, to the villagers buried nameless and unmarked. She spoke every truth she had uncovered. Her voice cracked as she recounted their deaths, their erasure, their pain. She poured her story into the soil, and the ground listened, one by one. The children began to appear again, pale figures stepping from the graves, surrounding her in silence. The girl in white emerged last. Her expression was softer now, no longer vengeful, just tired. "You spoke," the girl said. "You remembered," Ellie nodded. "I won't let the world forget. I'll tell them everything. You already have," the girl whispered, reaching out and touching Ellie's forehead with one cold finger. Suddenly, Ellie gasped and jolted. Awake in her bed, the motel was loud again. Voices in the hallway, cars outside. Her phone was on the nightstand. It was buzzing, dozens of missed calls, emails, messages. She reached for her camera. It was there, intact, full of footage. She checked the time. It had only been 2 days. Had it all been a nightmare? She rushed back to the city and immediately uploaded the video. The graves, the faces, the voices, the truth. The world saw it and believed. The video went viral. Historians confirmed pieces of the story. Articles were written. Investigations reopened. Black Hollow was flooded with journalists, researchers, truth seekers. The field became a protected site. For the first time, the names of the forgotten were spoken aloud, and then Ellie vanished. No one could explain it. Her apartment was untouched. Her car found parked neatly outside. The only clue was her camera, left on her desk, still recording. The final frame showed Ellie in her apartment, staring into the lens. Behind her, just for a second, the girl in white appeared, and then darkness. Weeks later, a new grave appeared in the field at Black Hollow. No one knew who placed it. No ceremony. No name, just a stone with one line. "She remembered us," but late at night, those who visit the field say they still hear her voice in the wind, soft, urgent, echoing between the trees. "Don't forget them. Don't forget me."